Hello and welcome. This is a short presentation on financial abuse. My name is Aoife Gaffney from Prudence Moneypenny Coaching, prudencemoneypenny.com, and I am extremely camera shy. Abuse, by its nature, is a sensitive subject, and financial abuse is even more sensitive because people generally don't want to talk about it. You don't want to admit that maybe you have experienced abuse, and I hesitate to use the word victim, but it is a word, but you have experienced abuse or you have been a victim of abuse. So it is a bit of a hot potato, but there's no shame. There's absolutely no shame, zero shame. It happens, and I'm sorry to say it happens, but you didn't cause it, and that's a very important thing to be very mindful of. Abuse is something that causes another person distress, discomfort, or harm. So this presentation is predominantly about financial abuse. So financial abuse is when somebody is preventing you from accessing either your own funds or any funds, or is scrutinizing your transactions, or they're not giving you access to any money at all. It doesn't matter if the money is yours or not, but if you don't have access, ready access and free access to an amount of discretionary spending, or your spending is being analysed to a degree that's maybe not healthy, you're possibly verging on the space of financial abuse. So how do you know if something is abusive or not? And abuse is, in a sense, is quite subjective. So subjective is it's somebody else's opinion. So my rule of thumb is, if you talk to a friend and you talk about your own situation as if it was somebody else, and you talk to a friend and you say, my friend is experiencing this is what is happening in my friend's life, and just ask the other person what they think, and that will give you a very objective, which is kind of an arm's length distance perspective on what your own situation is. Because sometimes what happens with abuse is that it goes on for so long that it becomes your normal. It doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it becomes your normal, but from an outside perspective, it might not be a healthy situation. So it's no harm to get somebody else's viewpoint if you think something just isn't sitting right with you. Who am I? I am a life and relationship coach. I'm also a divorce coach. I'm a hypnotherapist and an emotional freedom technique practitioner. I'm a 4-time international best-selling author. I also work in adult education, predominantly in the area of providing financial literacy to adults who have intellectual and learning difficulties. I'm a parent, and I have also experienced abuse in my own life. I've experienced emotional, psychological, financial, and an element of physical abuse. So I do know what I'm talking about. The gaslighting, the expression gaslighting comes from a film from 1944. And it's a film about psychological abuse. And the film is based around a gaslight, which is where the expression comes from. So gaslighting comes from where somebody else is putting ideas in your head that weren't there in the first place. So somebody else might say, oh, that's all in your head. Don't be so silly. I never said that. That's not what I said. If somebody is making you believe something that you know in your heart and soul that is absolutely not true, or somebody else is putting words in your mouth. Sometimes it happens by accident, and it comes from a very innocent place, but sometimes it does come from a dark place. But so it is something to be mindful of, and I'll give you some tools and strategies so that you can figure out the differences between what is coming from a good place and what is coming from a slightly darker space. So things not to do. Don't ignore things, and do not ignore yourself, because you know yourself better than anybody else. And don't listen to other people. And when I say that, I mean sometimes other people's advice comes from a very good place, but they just don't understand the situation that you're in. So other people can say things like, can you not just? And things are never black and white. Things are never that simple. So other people's advice always comes from a good place. But unsolicited advice is different. If you go and speak to a friend, a confidant, or an external expert, and you expressly ask their advice, that's different to somebody else simply saying, can you not just, because nothing is ever that simple. And please do not go into victim mode. And victim mode is, I brought this on myself. I must have done something wrong. This is my rite of passage, or whatever it is that whatever mindset you go into, please do not go into victim mode. But what you can do, and these are very positive steps you can take, you can be aware. And being aware is sort of acknowledging the things that are happening and acknowledging from a more objective space. Like, if this was happening to my friend, how would I react? So it's like taking a bit of a step back. Do tell somebody, but preferably start with acknowledging what's happening with yourself, and tell somebody that you trust and somebody that will not offer unsolicited advice. Keep a journal. Your journal could be a notebook, it could be an online resource, it could be voice notes. I'll have some resources at the end of this. It could be anything. It doesn't really matter. The method doesn't matter. What matters is that you do actually take action. Trust yourself, trust your own intuition. And if you really, really, really feel stuck, I highly recommend Emotional Freedom Technique. There are lots of free videos on YouTube. Simply Google Emotional Freedom Technique. I also highly recommend Brad Yates. Or book a session with an Emotional Freedom Technique practitioner who will help you work through very specific scripts if you do genuinely feel stuck. So here are some tips. Keep some cash, as in physical cash, at a separate location. So that could be the glove box of your car, in your drawer at work, in a friend's house. If you really need to, it could be in a Ziploc bag, under a hedge, in a space that you trust, but do keep some cash. Start separating your finances if you can. If you can't, that's okay. There's other ways to do that. Set up an online only account. So basically a bank account that will not have a bank statement, that either comes to your email address or comes physically through the letterbox of your house. So you could have a Revolut account. Be mindful that Revolut will be detected by your phone number. You could set up a PayPal account which is linked to your email address, or you could set up an online account using N26, which is a German online bank. Do set up a separate Gmail address that nobody else knows, with a password that you will remember. And if you do need to look up resources that you feel are helping you find your own space, then I recommend using an incognito mode on your computer. You can use that using your web browser, so incognito using either Firefox or Chrome, or just use a web browser that's not in your house, and make sure that you are not logging into Google Chrome. Where possible, I also recommend avoiding using smart home technology. That's something like Alexa or Google Assistant, something that will pick up conversations that you are having. If you do have smart technology in your house and you're having telephone conversations that you would prefer somebody else did not hear, then just simply unplug the technology. And I also highly recommend contacting the Irish Revenue Commissioners and the Department of Social Protection for advice on how to move forwards and how to discreetly and mindfully and sensitively begin separating your finances. So here are some resources that I would happily recommend. Women's Aid have a 24-hour helpline. Penzu is a fantastic free online piece of journaling software. So if you don't want to keep a notebook and pen, you might not feel comfortable keeping that. Penzu is very easy to use and not many people know about it. And if you want to start having correspondence, or as in physical post, delivered to a separate address, unpost.com/address point offer a free virtual postal address. You do need to collect the post within 14 days of it being delivered, but you might want to start, if you do feel that you are experiencing a form of abuse and you do feel you have one foot out the front door and you'd like some correspondence delivered confidentially, Address Point is a free and confidential service. MAMS, the Money Advice and Budgeting Service, will also offer you free and confidential advice. The HSE have a safeguarding confidential recipient. If this is a case of a vulnerable adult experiencing any form of abuse, you can simply just drop the confidential recipient an email and they will take the case from there. Or also safeireland.ie is also another fantastic resource if you feel that you do need some help. And also my most recently launched book, 11 Aligned Alchemists, and you can pick up a copy of the book at prudencemoney.com/11, contains some stories of women that I have personally worked with that have come through financial, emotional and physical abuse and have come out the other end. And all proceeds from the Kindle version of 11 Aligned Alchemists is going to kiva.org, which is an organization that supports women in the microeconomy who are looking to establish businesses in that micro economy space, who might not otherwise have access to finance that is very much in alignment with my own values. If you do feel that you do need some support, please drop me a line at askprue@prudencemoney.com. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, or you can hop onto my Facebook page. And if you'd like to book a complimentary consultation, I offer a 10 to 15 minute complimentary consultation at prudencemoneypenny.com/askprue.